kind of a shit situation just because most of it, I mean, look, I did what I did, but most of it had nothing ultimately why I ended up going had nothing to do with me.
Sure.
I mean, it did and it didn't. So I just got to the point where I looked at it and said, well, you know what? I am responsible for this.
Sure.
Like I did do this and it started those wheels in motion, and I have to at least accept responsibility for that. I know that after that moment, I really never did anything. I wasn't a problem to anybody. I didn't cause any issues. But I probably wasn't the nicest person. I mean, I was just an asshole. And I mean, at one point I told the judge to go fuck himself in open court. And that doesn't go over so well.
Sure.
And that's basically when he was like, man, I've had enough of your dumb ass. So man, he went in and literally, we ended up going through, like I said, I was on probation for a year, doing everything I was supposed to be doing. And the next thing you know, they literally tell me I have to go do 30 days in county jail, just out of the clear blue. Like I walk into court, just like they called me in and they told me it was just like a regular court setting. I'm just supposed to come in there and talk, I guess, like check in. As soon as I walk in, the judge says, bailiff, take Mr. Husk into custody. And like, I find out I'm doing 30 days in county jail. Well, like 8 days into it, they file a motion to adjudicate while I'm there and sets a $250,000 bond and goes on vacation. And is like, you know what? No big deal. Fuck it. You can do 30 days and we're going to basically go through this whole process again.
I get back.
Yeah. Well, a magistrate, basically like a temporary judge, came in and he says, and reduced it. Cause I mean, that's unreasonable. I mean, I'm already on probation, not a flight risk or any of that stuff. So anyway, I ended up after 30 days, I ended up getting out. I paid a bond and I got out. Well, he came back from vacation and he was pissed.
Oh, man.
He was livid. And so for 60 days I was out, and just after 60 days comes back in, sit down or walk into the courtroom. He does the same exact thing. Bailiff, take Mr. Husk into custody. I'm finding him guilty. Sentencing date will be, it was like November 7th or November 8th. Back in 2012. And man, so this is October. It's like October 26th. That was like a Thursday. Visitation there at the county is on Saturday. My wife has to come in and tell me that she found out she was pregnant on the 29th.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Or the 27th. So on the 28th, she tells me that she's 6 weeks pregnant with our son. So I ended up never coming back out after that point.
Yeah.
Like I'm there. I got shipped off. I mean, come November, we went through this. It was just a whole falsehood of a trial. It was literally just to due diligence to show that we went through this trial.
Right.
I mean, because, you know, they said I was behind on restitution. They had the county collections director on the phone. He says, no, Mr. Husk's never been behind. He's great. In fact, he's ahead. Had the lady who teaches the class I had to attend. She says, no, he's fantastic. He shows up early. He stays late, helps set everything up, helps break everything down. And this went on and on and on. And he literally at the very end says, I don't care what anybody has to say. None of that matters to me. I'm finding him guilty and sentence you to 10 years.
God. Trial by judge?
Yeah, we had no choice. There was no, because I was already on probation.
Oh, sure.
So I was at the mercy of the court. And so I had no choice but to do trial judge.
God.
So yeah, it was pretty fucked up. I ended up, I went off to, I got to like Huntsville, like December 16th, 2012. And then I hit my very first unit January 16th, like 30 days.
Where'd you go?
I went to Jasper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Called Goodman Unit.
Yeah. Are we live?
Yeah. Well, we're recording, but yeah.
I love it.
So what was really interesting when I got there is I tell everybody this is like when they talk about your permanent record, like that shit's real. Like it's not you can pull things up and it's this, but when they talk about the government's permanent record of everything you've ever done in your life, that shit's real.
Yeah.
So I've meant to look this statistic up, and I was told actually about this by my attorney. In the state of Texas, there's roughly like 156,000 people within the Texas prison system. In the state, there was less than 10 people. Out of 156,000, there was less than 10 people with a criminal mischief charge.
Right.
Felony criminal mischief charge. So that started raising flags for a lot of people when they would see, because you get shipped off to a unit, your file goes with you, and they start looking through this stuff.
Right.
Well, when I got to Goodman unit, you go through this thing called UCC, and it's classification, housing, whatever. The warden is in there, the major's in there, and like the warden's assistant. And as soon as I walk in, you go in individually, everybody, you spend about 5-10 minutes in there. The warden looks right at me and he says, "Oh, so you're my Olympic athlete."
Oh man.
And I'm like, and I'm like, oh my God. Like like right then and there, I knew like they had all kinds of file on me. And he ended up telling me, he told me right then and there, he's like, I've never seen someone come through this unit with that charge. He says, you don't. He says, I did all my research on you. As soon as I found out you were coming here, he says, I went back and I looked at everything about you. He says, I don't think you deserve to be here. He says, but I don't have a choice in that. And he looked at me, says, you have a problem with women? I said, no, absolutely not. No. He says, obviously I have no drug, no alcohol history. He says, I'm making you a trustee today, as of today, 30 days in, made me a trustee and put me in the infirmary working with all the nurses and doctors and everything. And so I would just go in there and hang out. I'd make coffee, and I just, and it was like a super easy, super, relaxed kind of thing. And it was not, man, cause it was from that day. Cause when you first come in, dude, you go through intake there in Huntsville, and it literally is, I had, they strip you down, and I'm covered in tattoos, so they document and photograph,
catalog
every inch of your tattoos. Granted, I've got a lot more now than I did then, and I never got any when I was there. Wasn't looking for hepatitis or anything. But yeah, they document every little bit of your tattoos. You go through psychology tests, sociology. You end up taking a IQ test. I got like 143 on my IQ test. So right off the bat, they were looking at it like, okay, like
this is not our typical inmate.
Yeah. So I ended up so that was January. And I'll back it up a little bit. The day they sentenced me, the DA went to my attorney, and the DA hated me. She fucking hated me. She
alpha male complex.
Well, she truly believed my ex-wife was a quote unquote victim. She believed that until she had to recuse herself from being the DA, the prosecuting attorney, against her for assaulting my mother, and then 17 other violation arrests. Like she ended up, like she had to withdraw herself because she was just, this person was a really, really bad person.
The facts come out.
Yeah. While I was in county, she actually punched my mom in the face, in front of my two older children. And tried to deny it, but it's in the parking lot of a Chuck E. Cheese, and every square inch of that place is on camera.
Sure.
So they ended up getting it. It was on camera. She gets probation. assault, family violence, gets it extended for 2 more years because she fails every UA, failure to report, never paid her fees, Adderall, cocaine, alcohol, stuff like that. So anyway, the DA had told my attorney that the judge's intention was to send me in for shock probation. He wanted to send me to prison for 6 months, make me go through the intake process, make me go through all this, shave my head, make me, strip down naked. And, when you first come in, it's not, of course, during the process, you're taking showers with other guys. But when you first come in, like, it's this huge open intake room, and there's like this wall with like 5 shower heads on it. And you have to walk over there in front of a couple hundred other people,
Right,
and shower and strip down, go through a whole bunch of shit. Really dehumanizing, really humiliating kind of stuff. And then their intention was to bring me back out. And I ended up after about 60 days of being in the system, come about February of 2012, I wrote a letter saying I'm refusing shock probation. I'd rather take my chances with the state of Texas than Montgomery County.
yeah.
Because they were just
Looking for a reason to revoke.
Yeah. I mean, because who knows? I mean, and I would have to come back and start everything over again.
Right.
So I'd already done a year on probation. Then I had 6 months in jail. And then I would have to come back out and literally start 10 years over
10
again.
10 years on paper.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to deal with the county and deal with that bullshit. Because like I said, I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I never failed to report, never had any problems with the UAs. But while you're there on probation in Montgomery County, you literally get treated as if you're guilty.
Right.
You get treated as, I mean, like you're like somehow you're in, you like no different than a violent offender.
Right.
It's extremely.
It's got all the makings right now for a good film. Just the climax, like, if you put it all in perspective, this guy went to jail for cutting the electricity in his own house. You just need that climax of the very end. It's a great
It literally
Paramount picture.
It does come across as almost like a Lifetime movie of the week, female drama kind of thing. I mean, and it was a lot of craziness that really occurred.
Relationships can be like that, though. Like, trust me, I've been through a bunch. I haven't been married as many times as you. I've never been married, period. But I understand it. Like going through relationships, and that passion and heat that comes.
Yeah,
lots of things come out that probably shouldn't. So I understand.
Yeah, it was it's funny when I first met that individual. She was, I think she was 19. I think I was like 21 or 22, something like that. Maybe a little bit older. No, I was like 23. But we went on a trip together, and we went with my family. And she did something, and my dad was like, you know what? Fuck this woman. Get her the fuck out of your life. Be done with her. Like send
Right
her
away.
ass home. Yeah, it's the first time they had met her. They're like, put her ass back on a fucking plane and send her back to Houston.
She was too hot.
So a couple years later, we have, it's 2008. Our daughter was born in July of 2008. This is October, Halloween of 2008. We get into a fight because she's uber drunk. Like, we'd sent everybody home, and it was such a fucking nonsensical thing. Everybody left. We go into the bedroom, and we're gonna fool around. Well, she starts going down on me and bites me, and I'm like I stop her, and I'm like, whoa, like that hurt. Like, no, don't want to do that again. Kind of restart. 30 seconds later, she fucking bites me again.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Hey, it's cool. I know you've been drinking. No big deal. No, but
Clearly you didn't get the message the first time. I don't like this.
Exactly. And she got all kinds of offended.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, hey, look, you're drunk. It's cool. No, I mean, again, not like I don't want to fight about this. I'm going to go sleep in the other room. And that pissed her off.
Oh, yeah.
So the next thing you know, she's in the guest room where I'm sleeping, and like she's on top of me. I mean, I'm on my stomach, and she's just fucking wailing on me and hit me on my back. And she was little, so it wasn't like what she was doing was hurting me. Well, we kind of calm down and we go back in the bedroom, and I'm sitting on the end of the bed and we're talking, and she made a comment and I made a smart ass fucking reply, and I swear to God, it's like a cartoon. She went, she's facing me, and with her right hand, she goes to take a swing at me, and it's like slow motion. Well, I lean back, but she had already had it in her mind, I guess, that she was going to fucking hit me and then take off running. And so as soon as she swung, her motion kept going, like her head spun around and she went to go run out the room. And I was I leaned back. Well, as soon as she turned and tried to go out the room, her hair was kind of like floating through the air. And I just reached forward and I grabbed her hair, and her feet like went straight up, straight up in the fucking air. And she goes to the ground. Well, I just had hardwood floors put in the house. So I literally I'm going to acknowledge not a fucking shining moment in my life. But I ended up taking her and I drug her out the fucking house because she had already hit me like 20, 30 times now.
That's enough.
So I drug her out the fucking house and I tossed her out the front door and I locked the door. Well, she's hitting the fucking front door, beating, screaming on the door. And my parents live one house down. So like I bought the house on the corner. We had one neighbor. My parents live on the other side of the neighbors. And then my brother-in-law and sister lived on the other side of my parents. So we're up in Magnolia. So end up like my parents hear it screaming, yelling, everything. And like I get on the phone, I'm like fuck this fucking, she's done. I'm done with her. Like she's not coming back in this goddamn house. So my parents end up coming down. And my dad, who had, insisted 2 years before that I fucking ditch her, get rid of her. My dad's like, Jason, calm down. It's okay. Like you guys have a kid. You need to work it out. I'm like, I don't want to be beaten up and be dead. And my mom, of course, but she's on the other side of it now. Cause in the beginning, my mom loved her.
Oh man.
My mom's defending her. Oh, it's okay. Just now my mom's like, fuck this. Don't touch and I'd already like black eye was already developing and everything. Like she'd hit me a lot. So it was it was from an early stage. It was a drama filled, red flag type of fucking relationship.
Sure.
So, and I don't think she's changed. I mean, ironically, man, she, so last May, she got a DWI. Actually, I guess it was May of 2020. May of 2020, she got a DWI, her third DWI, with my daughter in the car.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Cops videotaped, followed her for like 5 minutes, watches her run off the road, drive through someone's yard, almost take out a stop sign, had my daughter in the car and her infant child from her current marriage. Really bad shit, man. And it was ironic. It was last night I was going through my Facebook show page, and there was a bunch of messages in there. And apparently 20 weeks ago, she commented on one of my videos because she's nasty. Like she'll text me every once in a while just to be an asshole.
Oh, sure.
But she responds to one of these videos and is talking a bunch of shit and everything. And I haven't, I don't speak to her, period. I have zero communication with this person. She's just fucked up and nasty. So anyway, I've had my share of super shit relationships, man. But hey, I take my responsibility in them.
Sure.
I've got my part.
Yep.
So
no, I can completely sympathize with you there. I've had the ups and downs myself. And what's crazy is being the man in the relationship is so much harder because there is that factor. Exactly what you're talking about. Like they can get physical whenever they want to, and it's supposed to be okay. but even to defend yourself is an attack on them. And I've been through that scenario where I'm like, dude, what am I supposed to do when this person's and the worst part for me is the clawing, you know, and they just want to they just want to scratch your face, you know, or claw your chest, and you hold them down or push them back, and all of a sudden you're abusive. And I'm like, this is not abuse. I'm being abused. I'm defending myself. And so when you're talking about laying there on your stomach and this person punching you in the back and in the chest, you can take that because they really don't hurt you that much. You know, like,
right.
Yes, you get your lumps and bruises, but as men and specifically athletes like ourselves, that's really nothing.
Yeah.
But to defend yourself, then all of a sudden you're this abusive person. And I'm like, defending myself. I'm thriving on that. But I did want to touch back on when you were talking about the judge sending you the 30 days. I have a very similar story where this was after I had stopped fighting. I fought professionally, you know, and after I had stopped fighting, I went to a nightclub, and it was a big time. A fight breaks out that's not directly in our group, but because we're at the table next to it, my friends are kind of breaking it up and pushing people apart, you know, and keeping the peace at one point. And this guy picks up a table and literally is about to hit me with it, and I kick him in the stomach. Like, I'm defending myself. Well, fast forward, 45 minutes, and the cops are there, and they're like, okay, this guy says that you kicked him in the stomach. And I was like, yes, I admitted to it right away. I was like, yeah, this guy had a cocktail table over his head about to hit me with this. Yeah, I kicked him in the stomach. Fast forward, another 6 months, I'm going through trial and going, through all this stuff. I represented myself. I went pro se because I was like, man, any logical, I would love to bring this in front of, 8 of my peers.
Should be cut and dry.
Right. I said, no problem. I'll represent myself. Well, the first court date that I have, I go in there fully dressed, represent myself, and I'm looking through files, like finding mine. They have a box and the prosecutor drops off the file, and I'm pulling mine out and I'm looking through it. The judge comes out, and it's like, who is this guy? I was like, oh, I'm representing myself, and he's like, take Mr. Jones to there's a holding cell, just off of the courtroom. Let's take him back there. And I was like, what's going on here? And he's like, we're revoking your bond. They'd given me a PR bond, because the scenario, the judge that looked at it, in the courthouse, or in the county, is like, yeah, this seems kind of stupid, but so let him out on himself. It's like a $5,000 bond, something stupid, it's not that big, but it's something stupid. And he just throws me in jail. And the funny thing is, it's my birthday. And I'm leaving that afternoon to go to Vegas with my girlfriend at the time.
Oh.
And it's like an 8 o'clock court, 8 a.m. And he puts me in jail. I'm in a full suit, and I represent myself, trying to be a good guy, and look the part. And for whatever reason, same thing, just has it in him to shock this guy, to put this guy, in jail. And I was like, there's no way that this is happening right now. I was like, can I talk to the judge? This can't be the whole proceeding. It's just a hearing, but says, Judge, I'm going to talk to you. Go ahead and break yourself down, And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, on my birthday, same thing. Later on, it all got dismissed. It was a total catastrophe, a clusterfuck. I was like, man, it's these judges sometimes, it's I don't know how they get elected.
Yeah.
And I know how they get elected. Like, it's not that difficult, like they put their name in the ballot, and most of the people that are voting, that pick this have no idea who these judges are,
right.
So you have the qualifications to be a judge.
Right.
But are you qualified to be a judge? Because similar things that have happened to you and that have happened to me don't speak to what a judge is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's like a vendetta, or something that's gone on in their past that has them, that wants to prove something. And it's unfortunate. And the more and more I think about it, and it really sparked from the Bush years.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've seen it. It's a HBO special.
Okay.
It's called The Bush Years. It goes from like Prescott Bush all the way through like Jeb's son. I mean, it goes through all of it, and it's got me thinking, like, maybe I should run for some kind of office, because there's so much that goes on there that people just don't see. Specifically, these judges that just decided they wanted to shock us.
Yeah.
They wanted to teach us a lesson.
Yeah.
Like, who gives you the right to send people to jail just because you want to prove a point? You know, like it's unfortunate, you know, and it's sad that that happens, but it's got me thinking like, okay, we need more people that are seeing what's just and what is unjust, you know, and maybe I'm too harsh on these judges specifically because they see, you know, you and I are such a small piece of what they see. They are seeing thousands of cases where some of these people may need to be shocked, you know, but if they do their diligence, you know, and actually look into the scenario, you know, had the judge looked at my file that day and said, yeah, the guy was about to hit this guy with a chair or, you know, with a table. He defended himself. Later on, it comes out that, yeah, he was just in what happened, you know, but in your case as well, if he had taken his time to look at that, but
did they, in your case, did they look at you because you had training?
I don't think he looked at any of that. He didn't like it that I was defending myself.
Okay.
He didn't like the pro se part of that. And I guess that a lot of the legal field looks down upon that. Like, oh, you're not qualified, you know. And I've worked with a lot of attorneys since then, you know, like I worked for a law firm for a while. I understand that. Like, they take pride in the position and the time that they
I went to school. What makes you think you can do what I'm doing?
Right. You're not qualified to do this. And I don't know if the attorney or the judge, in my case, was an attorney before that. Most of them are. Yeah. That's normally who becomes judges, you know. They look highly down upon people that represent themselves, you know. And I think that's really what kind of irked them. But I was like, man, in a scenario like this, I felt like I was just doing what I was doing, you know. So
like my judge has been disbarred.
Oh,
so
shocker.
Yeah. So apparently while I was away, he had been under investigation, I guess, already previously by the state bar, by the judges association, whatever, for excessive sentencing outside of guidelines. And then he was removed from the bench completely when it was found that he was illegally accessing the jury database to elicit campaign contributions.
Oh, wow.
So it's like you said, people are voting for people. They don't even fucking know who these people are.
No
they
clue.
just see a name on there and it's like, oh, okay, well, that sounds whatever. And this guy was literally, you know, doing something illegal just to raise funds to campaign.
I hate to interrupt you, but AOC is a perfect example because she's in the forefront, you know, and in the limelight, people understand. Like, she made her bones, you know, by picking on a seat that was, you know, there was nobody there and nobody there to run against her.
Right.
So she gets into that position, which I highlight because the judges specifically in the county, you know, that get picked, they're just on the ballot.
Yeah.
Nobody, there's no huge, you know, campaign, and they do campaign, but they're campaigning to a very small amount of people in their district, you know, in their area, and they get picked. And nobody really knows until you get into court or you get into a scenario like you're in, that do you ever learn that this judge is actually crooked?
Yeah.
Like, this guy is only in there for his own benefit.
Yeah.
You know, he's not there because he wants to be an unbiased, you know, decider of cases. He's there for his own political gain.
Yeah.
You know, and it's unfortunate.
So it's kind of funny. I've got it's funny how I met the guy. He's a judge in Harris County. His name is Josh Harris. And he's actually big into jiu-jitsu. And so we talk from time to time about that. But the way we met was in 2018, I had taken my oldest son to Disney. And when we're at the airport waiting in line for these buses that take us off to the resorts, this guy and his family happened to be in front of us, and we all recognize each other from being on the same flight. So we start talking and everything, and he's like on the city council at the time, Houston. And ironically, but also there was a conversation about us being Jewish as well. So it was just this whole thing started circling around, and Josh, he tells me one day that, oh, like he's running for a judge. He had never run for anything else before like that. Like he was an unknown quantity. Like his name just was put on the ballot.
Sure.
And he got elected just because he happened to be able to say that he had been on the city council or something like that. Like there was nothing else really there. The guy's a great guy. He's really cool, but it's like, yeah.
Did he have the background to be a
I mean,
judge,
I'll be
right?
honest. I don't know enough about his background on that end. My understand, I mean, apparently he's got a pretty good record with everybody. From what I've seen, what I understand is he's pretty fair. You know, a little more reading into people's files rather than just, skimming through and saying, no, this guy's an asshole because he's representing himself.
Sure.
So, hoping to actually have him on.
That'd be great.
Yeah, happen to have him on one day. He's agreed to it. We got to work out the timing of it and everything. But yeah, with like the judge that sentenced me, and I know this is going to be weird. It's going to be like I don't want to make this to sound like I'm defending anything whatsoever. I've had to accept and acknowledge like my role in things. Like had I not done this, then this wouldn't have happened. Then this wouldn't have happened. At the end of the day, I did this that triggered this and this and this.
Sure.
Had I not done this, none of these other things probably would have ever happened. So I have to acknowledge my part in it. So it's not like,
That's a hard step to take, especially after you spend 4 years in prison.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. When you get there, you quickly realize, or you have to quickly decide, like who you're gonna be.
Oh, sure.
Like, am I gonna be one of the people here that, like, I mean, a lot of these guys treat this shit like it's a fucking vacation.
Right.
They're, free food, free clothing, housing, all this stuff. They don't really have to do anything.
Right. Zero responsibility.
Watch TV, play cards, dominoes, chess, whatever the fuck you do. Me personally, I made a decision from the very beginning that this is not where I want to be. And they push this on you from the very beginning. In the state of Texas, the recidivism rate is extremely high. People who go home and come back, the percentage is like 80%.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not going to be me. Like, I'm going to do everything I need to do to not be that person. And so I literally sat down in those first 30 days in Jasper, and I wrote out a list of all the things that here's all the things that like bad things that have happened in my life. Gone. Okay. And then I said, all right, well, I'm going to move everything from this column to this column that I am responsible for. I can't control the shit that happened to me that someone else did. I can't change that someone was, so I got into an argument with somebody and they decided to punch me in the face.
Right.
I can't control that. But like the shit I did, moved it over to this column. And then I started evaluating. It went from like a list of like 50 things to a list of like 10 things. And in that 10 things, I decided, okay, what caused this? Like what was the root cause of these things? And every single one of them was ego and patience.
Yep.
Pride. And, it was me lashing out, for whatever, and truly doing evaluations of every little thing in there. And I decided that, all right, I got to fix this shit. I got to fix it. And the only way I'm going to go home and be a better person and not come back here, because to be honest, the road I was on was going to lead me back there over and over and over again. Because I was an arrogant asshole. I mean, nobody who's not fucking full of themselves does what I did and think that there's going to be zero consequences for it. That was just a really, so it spoke to my entire mindset as an individual. And I was like, man, I don't like this. So really looked back and said, I have to take responsibility for my actions. That's first and foremost, I'm responsible for what I've done. And that honestly changed everything. That opened up the door to really grow in a lot of other areas and really just be accountable.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing, what I started doing while I was there is I went to a lot. I mean, I don't drink, but I went to AA classes, because the way they handle it is as if it's any other kind of addiction.
Sure.
Could be drugs, could be whatever. Mine was anger and pride. I was addicted to it, and I had to get over that shit. So So, really worked on that. But the judge, while I was away, and this, you might have heard about this. This was a pretty big thing in the news. You remember back in like 2013, 2014, in the Woodlands, all along Rayford, they had a lot of bars that got in a lot of trouble because they were over serving people. And it all started with a woman who had been drinking all night long at Rayford, ends up getting on the northbound feeder road, goes northbound on the southbound side, hits 3 kids on their way to school and kills them. So I found this out by being at the trustee camp. I got shipped off to the trustee camp in Navasota in April of 2013.
What was the name of that unit?
That is O.L. Luther Pack 2.
O.L. Luther.
Yeah.
Right. My brother was there.
Oh.
Years and years and years before that.
Really?
Yeah, in the 90s.
Yeah. He was probably in the building inside.
He was a trustee.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his job was. I was too young at the time to know the difference. But I remember going to Navasota. I went to high school in Belleville, so that area was very, very familiar to me. But
so right there's actually, it's a 9,000 acre farm donated to the state from the Pack family, and there's actually 2 units there, Pack 1 and Pack 2.
Okay.
And Pack 1 is mostly older people that have severe medical conditions, things like that. They're typically there. That's also where they have like a pig farm. They're actually the pigs are treated better than the inmates. They have AC. Pigs have AC. The inmates don't have AC. But while I was away, there's a lot of people that make it to trustee camps that have DWIs. A lot of alcohol related people. It's not extreme violent offenders that go out there. You do have aggravated robberies, some minor assaults, things like that, but it's a lot of alcohol related stuff. And so there's a lot of people out there for vehicular manslaughter. And the standard in the state of Texas, the sentencing kind of guidelines, the standard for it is 3 years for every life that was taken. And again, don't drink and drive. Granted, look, I know we've all done it. We've all done it in our lives, and we shouldn't. But we have. Unfortunately, some of these people, they got into a wreck and they killed somebody. And that vehicular manslaughter usually translates into 3 years for every life that was taken. So like there's guys in there that have 9 years because they killed 3 people, or 6 years or 3 years. I mean, I met a kid from Montgomery County. Him and his best friend were 19 years old, went to a Catholic, private school. They got drunk, got into a wreck. His best friend was killed. The judge, he got 3 years in prison, but then the judge wanted to take away his entire 20s and ended up giving him, he got 3 years TDC, but 3 years once he finished that, 10 years probation in Montgomery County, which is kind of rough. But this judge sentenced that lady who killed those 3 high school kids to 37 and a half years, which is, we all look at it from the perspective to say, hey, she took 3 lives. Those kids can never, I get that. And it sucks. That's horrible. But there is a standard and there is a guideline. And he had sentenced way beyond that. On top of that, like, we have sentencing stuff here in the county, the state, whatever, that says, okay, you committed a crime, you robbed a bank with a gun. That's an aggravated robbery. You beat somebody up and you had a baseball bat. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, whatever. The state of Texas treats those as what's called an aggravated charge, and you have to do 50% of your sentence. Well, the state, as you're going off to prison, they can also evaluate your charge as egregious and give you what's called 3G, which you get treated the same way as aggravated. Your charge is not aggravated, but the state treats you the same exact way as they would treat an aggravated charge. You're still going to do 50% of your sentence. Then they have other little things. For example, the judge sentences her to 37 and a half years. Well, that half year means absolutely nothing to us, but it is a trigger with TDCJ that she's going to do 25 years before she's eligible for parole. No chance, no ifs, ands, or buts. That half year means she's going to do 25 years.
No question.
No question. She'll be in her early 50s by the time she gets out. By the time she's even eligible for parole.
Right.
Again, I'm not the arbiter of what's right or wrong there. I mean, hopefully she's finally come to terms and taken responsibility for her actions and stuff. I mean, she's on video. But that's what the bars got in trouble for, over serving her and a bunch of other nonsense. Yeah. But man, 37 and a half years. And this is the judge that did that to her.
Your judge was in Montgomery County?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Judge Seiler. Judge Seiler.
Calling you out today.
Yeah. I'll it's a really, really weird thing. I actually, while I was on probation, I had been told something about him, because he was always just a really miserable, kind of bitter guy, and was trying to figure out what that was.
Surprise.
So one day, when I'm on probation, we're at the Woodlands Mall, and I'm in the pet store with my daughter. Yeah, I guess would have been my daughter. In the pet store with my daughter. And I see him outside with a stroller, and he's probably in his 50s. And I see, and again, I don't know what the right term is. So I don't want to be, I don't want to be offensive. And I kind of want to be sensitive about it, but the way I could describe it is what I understand is that the child was a mongoloid. I'm not sure if that's the right term or not. But the child was severely handicapped. And he's standing outside, and he's there with his kid. Now, I mean, I've never been in that position, so I don't know what he's going through. But he was so fucking miserable. Like, you could see it on his face. Like it was just like he was just sitting here thinking, man, I'm a judge. Why the fuck is my life like this? Why do I have to do this? That's what I saw.
Sure.
And I'll be honest, in that moment, I felt bad for him. Like, and again, he just sentenced me to probation. This is, I got sentenced to probation December 2nd, 2011. And this is maybe like 3-4 months later. And in that, I mean, I instantly, like I could see it in him.
Yeah.
Like, I felt bad for him.
That's being human, though. That's and some people aren't raised like that.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people out there that come from a background where that stuff's not ingrained in you, that stuff's not taught, and you don't feel those kind of things, but you can clearly see, like, when somebody's in that emotional state, and you feel bad for them, like, that's just being human.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I've learned that through my own businesses. And I'm scared that this will come off in some kind of racist light, because I've had this conversation with a couple of people, but I had a car wash. I just sold my car wash here recently. And I had
It was a Platinum Auto Spa?
Platinum Auto Spa.
Yeah.
Yep, just sold it. And I had, when I bought the place, I had a predominantly Hispanic staff. Then, COVID came in and kind of kicked us in the nuts, and most all of those people left after, the pandemic really kicked in, because they could make so much more money laying carpet, painting, carpentry, laying tile, where, I was paying $10 to $15 an hour. They're getting $20, $25, $30 an hour. So a lot of them left. And then the immediate replacements, for the neighborhood are predominantly black, and I had a lot of them come in. And for me, I've been an athlete my entire life. Everything came from coach, and then I went to a military school, so like everything was very structured, and there was a hierarchy the whole time. If coach said do it, you did it because you wanted to win, or you did it because you knew that they were giving you direction how to win. That always came. And then when I went to the military school, it came from a chain of command where you didn't question the guy above you because he was above you, and this is the chain of command.
Yeah.
That's how it went, and you did it. And even, my upbringing, my dad's from a very country family, a horse family, like if they said it, you just did it, like that's how it went down, because that's your father, and you respect them at this level that you don't question it. So when I had this car wash, I left the bar business, and restaurant business, where I'd been in for so many years before that. And I thought it would be very similar. We're going to have the same kind of clientele. We're a service industry, like we want to put out the best product as fast as possible, make these people happy, they come back. That's how I thought about it. And when I had these new employees, we would have scenarios where, and just for example, a car is about to be completed and deliver the car to the customer. They're 95% done. And the guy finishing it comes inside and buys a Coke and takes his Coke break at 95% of this vehicle being done, while the customer's sitting right next to him wondering, why did we take our break right before we finished the car? Why don't we finish the car, then take the break? And then so you get this negative experience for a customer, So when I go talk to this person about it, I say, hey, man, listen, next time we're about to finish a car, go ahead and complete the car, then take your cigarette, your snack, your Coke break, so that the customer is happy. And I run it very much like a team. Like that's how I am, So I tell them, hey guys, and we'll have a meeting, on payday. I say, guys, listen, if Tom Brady tells Rob Gronkowski, you're going to run 15 yards and out, and he hikes the ball, and Rob runs 15 and in, and Tom throws the ball out here, when Gronk comes back to the huddle, he goes, what the fuck? We just had this conversation. I told you run 15 and out. You ran 15 in. Yeah. There's no way that we get in the end zone if you run 15 and in. That does not work, And so, I take that approach. And I would use that example often when I would have these team meetings, So when something like that would happen, I say, hey, man, listen, I need you to finish the job. I need you to run the 15 and out. And I would get upset. And I would yell, and it would bother me so much because I want the customer to experience a good experience. I want them to be happy about the job. And I would get frustrated and tempers would flare, especially during the middle of summer when it's 100 degrees outside and these guys are out there hustling, they would fire back. And I would pull them to the side and say, listen, this is a business and we have to understand this. You have to understand I'm giving you direction because that's what makes us a complete team. That's what makes us put out a good product. And I would get so upset. And I would talk to friends of mine, and I finally kind of came to the conclusion that some of the guys that I was getting upset with did not understand. They didn't know that they were doing something wrong because they're from a different background as me, which I didn't understand. For me, if the boss said it, which was dad, coach, drill instructor, you did it.
Yeah.
Well, I would tell them to get off the phone. They got their headphones. They're playing with their phones. I say, get off your phone, and they would just look at me like I was stupid, and go back to playing with their phones. And then I would get upset. Well, I started. I understood that they weren't raised with work ethic. They weren't raised with these morals, or these ethics, because. And this is where I feel like that line where people think that I'm being racist, but it's not racist. It's just me being educated. A lot of them weren't raised with both parents at home. Some of them don't have a parent at home at all. Yeah. Some of them are raised by an older brother, a cousin, a grandparent, and some of those people are working 2 or 3 jobs, just to provide. They're doing everything they can. So they're not there every day when they get home from school. They're not there to teach them these things, so they didn't even know that they were doing anything wrong. Yeah. They had no idea. It blew their mind, it blew mine way more than theirs, but they didn't even understand that at that 95% point, them going and taking a break and this customer waiting on their car was going to affect them negatively because nobody had ever taught it to them. Nobody had ever spoke to them about those things until me.
Yeah.
And it was sad, but I actually built a great team there, because I continued, every week, we'd have a payday meeting, we'd have these meetings, to talk and coach them up, and a lot of them became great employees. Like I just had a whole conversation. I sent out all these thank yous to my guys after I sold the place. I said, man, thank you. Like I appreciate you working with me over the last couple of years, where you came and where you're going now. And then the love that I got back made me feel so good, because they're like, man, whenever you do your next venture, I want to be a part of the team. I want to be this, like, again, goosebumps, the hair standing up on my arm, because it made me feel so good, to get that repercussion. Because some of these guys, like I said, they were those guys that I had to go out there and talk to. I said, hey, man, at 95% of this car, let's finish it, then come in and get your Coke, then take your cigarette break, so I feel that, and it was a great experience, for me, and I'm looking forward to doing other things. I'm super busy right now with this trucking company that I started, which was a complete fluke. It really was. I'm running on and on and on, but I bought a trailer after I bought a car out in Monterey at Car Week. I went out there and I bought this car, and I bought
Barrett Jackson?
No, that was I bought this one at Mecum, but
Okay.
out at Car Week in Monterey, everybody's there. RM, Mecum, all the big guys are out there. And it's a week of auctions. I mean, just one after another, different companies, different styles. Like RM runs super high line, $1 million Ferraris and old Lamborghini, not just Lamborghinis and Ferraris, but there's Duesenbergs and there's Ferraris and Porsches and you name it, they do it. Mecum still runs their kind of barrage of muscle cars and stuff, like that's kind of, everybody has their own little niche, but there's a bunch out there. And I bought a car and I brought this car back and I posted some pictures online, and all of the people in the car culture that I'd made friends with over the past 20 years, that I've been in it, started reaching out. Hey man, I didn't know you're in the trucking business. I didn't know you're hauling cars. I said, I'm not. I just bought this because I bought this car and I wanted to bring it home, and I needed a trailer because I've got a bunch of cars, and I go to different shows and different car events, and I don't always want to drive, a 1962 Lincoln Continental to Dallas or to Austin or to Arizona. So I bought this trailer, and it's funny that they all reached out to me because the car industry has kind of a shady mantra, you think when somebody, refers to somebody else as a used car salesman,
right?
That it's real, but I had built all these relationships over the past 20, 25 years because I was just another car guy. I was just at the auctions buying these cars. I was just at the car shows showing off my car. There was never an angle. There was never a hustle. They never felt approached by me to sell something, to buy something. So whenever they saw me hauling, that trust was there without the sales side of it, So, I mean, I've been so fortunate now that I've bought more trailers and I've got trucks on order right now because literally I'm turning down work because I have so much because of that reputation, that I carried just being a car guy. And they're like, man, he has nice cars. He takes care of his stuff and he's, clearly doing good things. So, I mean, I've been so fortunate,
I saw a picture. What was that little blue car? It was like looked like a little race car. Had white. It was blue, it was like a sky blue color, and it had like white number on the side.
Oh, that's the Porsches. So those are on consignment, and that's another a huge business that has just flooded me. All of those same friends that I've made in the car business, or in the car culture, have come to me and said, "Hey, I see you're doing things. Can you help me with XYZ?" And I've probably got 15 cars now on consignment. And those Porsches, there's two of them. There's a 72 914-6 and a 73 914-6. That just friends of mine that said, "Hey man, can you help me move these?"
Yeah.
And that is a super cool car. That
thing looks badass.
Full race ready. It races in the Porsche League.
Okay.
That's put on by Porsche. It's a great car.
That's the brokerage side of things that you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Well, because I've been telling everybody's like, when I told I've been telling my friends I'm having you come on. They're like, who is the guy? I'm like, here, check this out. And you had, I think it was back in October or November, you placed a brand new Ferrari with one of the players for the 49ers. What car was that?
It's a SP90. It's SF90. It's half electric and half natural combustion engine, or gas engine. unreal. It makes like 900 horsepower. It's got 3 electric motor. Yeah, it's got 3 electric motors in a V8.
Yeah.
It's amazing car. Specifically, when he bought it, he said, "Hey, I need you to do what's called a PPI. It's a post-purchase inspection.
Okay.
So go look over the whole car, make sure everything's perfect, drive the car, make sure it drives straight, because I mean it comes straight from Italy, shows up on the docks, and they intake it, and it sits there on the lot,
Yeah,
and,
you never know what could have gone wrong with it during shipping.
Right. So he says, man, just go drive it, and I got there, and I've driven Ferraris before, but nothing quite like that. I mean, it was an amazing vehicle.
Would it touch a Tesla?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, every bit of it.
Smoke it?
No, the Tesla is an amazing car as well. Like they are built well. I haven't driven a lot of them, but electric, if you can put it into perspective, like the RC cars that used to have, how it would just rip.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take that time, that a combustion engine takes, to make the fire, to put out the it's just instant power. And
I was looking at a obviously, man, I'm a big like American made everything, which is funny because I probably have a shitload of stuff made in like China or Mexico, but like right below us I have my my Corvette, and I never intended on having a Corvette. I just happened to buy it one day. I wanted to build my credit. So but my father had always had Corvettes, but I was always a Camaro guy, like the classic Camaros, things like that. And so I was always into the classic cars. Well, now they're coming out with these electric, and I've got like 2 friends that have the Teslas, and I haven't had the opportunity to drive one yet, but I was looking at either like a what is it, a P90 or P100D Type S, or a Plaid Type X. And it showed like the Plaid Type X was like 1,100 horsepower. Yeah. Granted, it's like a 7,000 or 8,000 pound vehicle because the batteries are so freaking heavy.
Right.
But like 0 to 60 in like 2.8 seconds, man.
Electric speed.
It's insane.
It really is.
What's the fastest car you've ever driven?
Man, I don't know the answer to that, because there's so many different brackets, to put that in. Is it a speed car? Because I had an RX-7 in the 90s that would do almost 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It said 180 on the dash, and I would bury it with horsepower. And I remember I lived on 529 at the time. At 362, between there and like Barker Cypress was almost a straight line. And I mean, I could hit 180 that fast and just bury it past that, and the hood would just wave, like the steel would bend. It was so fast.
Had that rotary engine in it, right?
Yeah. And at the time, I was fresh out of school. I didn't have any bills, so I would just put every check every week into it. Apex Racing off of North Eldridge. I would go over there every week and say, "Hey, man, what's next?" And he would just boost it up. But speed cars, like top end speed and low end speed, like there's just such a big difference. Probably what I would deem the fastest car, off the line that I ever drove was, I was gonna buy a Porsche Taycan when they came out. At the car wash at the time, I wanted to put in charging stations. I was like, this would be a great, addition, because we had a lot of, we're right on the kind of the cusp of Memorial this way and A-Leaf on this side, so 80% of our business came from Memorial, and it's a lot of Teslas, and so I thought, dude, let's put in a couple charging stations here. The customers would love that, it'd be a great addition. I was like, but the way that I should do that is have an electric vehicle, just to show everybody, like, this is what you can do here, so I thought it'd be a good addition. And so I went to the Porsche dealership there on I-10, and I'm looking at cars, and they have one that's very close to the same color as one of my trucks at the time. So I was like, man, I think this is the one. It's an entry level, not entry level, but I mean, it's just a regular Taycan. It's not the turbo. The salesman is talking to me, super nice guy, and somebody yells at me from the other side of the parking lot, like, hey, don't fuck with that guy. And I turned and looked, and it's like a regular from the car wash. And he's got a Porsche, and he comes over there and chats up. He's like, man, Khalil sold me my car. He's a great guy. He's like, hey, man, Dustin's a great guy. He owns the car wash down the street. Like, take care of him, you know, and they have this whole conversation. I was like, thanks, man. I was like, I appreciate it. He goes, you guys want to take a ride? I said, yeah, let's take a ride. I thought we were going to take my car. Well, he gets the keys to a different car, and we get in. He's like, Dustin, I highly suggest you buy this car. This is the Turbo S. It's the fastest car they make. Like, it's full electric, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, I can't afford, you know, the $215,000, $220,000 price tag this car comes with. And he's like, no, it's $170,000. It just got traded in. And I was like, what happened? I was like, why would somebody trade a car in with 450 miles on it? He's like, this is the guy that left the nice restaurant, drove to his house in River Oaks, gets out, the people try and rob him, shoot him in the face, and he lives.
Ooh.
It was all over the news. You probably heard about it right there in the middle of the pandemic, how they were following people home from, and I don't want to name the restaurants because I don't want any negativity coming towards those guys because I love the restaurant.
Yeah.
I go there all the time. But it was one of those stories, you know, where they follow the rich guy home, they try and rob him, you know, shoot the guy in the face. He lives. He brings the car back and says, hey, it's too high profile for me. Get me something normal to drive, you know, like, here's the car back. So Khalil says, Dustin, you should buy this car. Like, right where it stands right now, you could buy it today, put it on the secondary market, you know, and sell it, probably make $30,000 or $50,000.
Yeah.
I say, well, let me think about it, you know. I'll go home. He goes, I wouldn't think too long. That's the only comments we make. But then we go on this test drive, and he goes, man, let me show you what this thing can do. And he takes us down this straightaway road and just unleashes this thing. He puts it in, you know, race mode or whatever it is, and it is the fastest car off the line that I'd ever driven. I mean, it was electric speed. I was glued to the seat. I mean, it was just unreal. And then he's ripping it through these turns. And I asked him, this is just a dumb question. I was like, well, does it have autonomous? You know, because I'd been looking at the Teslas also, and I love that whole aspect of it. I was like, man, get in and let the car drive. I love this.
Yeah.
And he looked at me with this just stupid look, and he was like, this is a Porsche.
Right.
You want to drive a Porsche, you know? And I was like, oh, man, I felt dumb
Right.
all at that moment. I was like,
Yeah.
golly. I was like, why did I ask that question? But he's like, no, they're not autonomous. You drive a Porsche. He's like, this is why you buy this car, because you want to drive it. It's faster than anything. And it was impressive, you know.
So I've made a commitment to myself. I don't know if I'll ever achieve it. My dream car, absolute dream car, is a Ford GT.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if I will ever want to, like, I look at them like black's pretty badass, but that silver,
Oh yeah.
that silver is fucking nice. That if I know I've absolutely made it in life. Like, if I can buy a Ford GT, because you got to pay $650,000 for cash up front for it, and then wait like 2 years.
You're right.
But my goal for my next car is a GT3 RS.
Okay.
Like, I look at those vehicles, like, I'm never getting rid of my Corvette. Like, that thing, and it's my daily driver. Like, I have my truck and I have my Suburban. I've got other vehicles. Like, I will pick that Corvette day in, day out just to drive.
Sure.
It's so fucking nice. But like that, like I've like that Porsche is what I want. Like, which is an odd thing. Again, people kind of tease me about it. They're like, but yeah, but it's made in Germany. I'm like, look, I'm a bad Jew. like I'm a horrible Jew. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm gonna buy a Porsche, you know. I might not ever buy a Volkswagen, but you know, like, I don't think God's gonna be mad at me for buying a Porsche, you know. But like, that is my car, like, where I know I've done pretty well, like, because, man, those cars are fucking insane.
It really is. Kevin Madden, one of my good friends, had one. He's got tons of cars, but I remember when he got that one specifically, I had a Audi S5 something, and he was like, hey, man, let's take him to the track. And I was like, I would love to, you know, and I crashed mine a couple of weeks later. So I never made it, but I remember that car it's a beautiful car. And I know they've run exceptionally well, like Porsche builds. I had BMWs, you know, and I loved it. Like, I bought this car at the car show one day. I went to look at Audi A7s, and I'm standing there looking at the A7. The car salesman, you know, is sitting there just chatting at me, and I look across and I see this M6, the Grand Coupe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I just walked off. I didn't even listen to him. I walked right over there and I was like, hey, man, this is the car. Like, I want it. So I called my guys at BMW and I was like, hey, man, I love it. And they always made that, you know, their slogan is, it's a machine, you know. And I was like, the ultimate driving machine. And so, like, I fell in love with those. But after driving Porsche, like, that is, like, a real driving machine. Like, everything that they do, you know, like, I love the way that they drive. So I can sympathize with that GT3. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Well, it's funny. So in 2005, yeah, it's like October 23rd, something like that, 2005, Hurricane Wilma hit South Florida.
mm-hmm.
And we ended up getting a contract on Porsche of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah.
And they, you know, he's got the big racing team and all that stuff. So the roof gets ripped off. And he also he has the Porsche dealership, but right behind it is like the Rolls Royce. He has Rolls Royce, Bentley, Ferrari, Lamborghini, all right there. Well, the roof gets ripped off, and like we fix the roof and we clean everything up on the inside. And we end up having my cousin who worked for us at the time suspended from a harness, hanging from the ceiling inside. And they had just come out with the Porsche GTs. And, you know, he's dangling over these $450,000 cars and, you know, cleaning stuff off the ceilings, the framing and everything. And like, he's telling a story, like people just walking in where, for example, it was just this guy probably in his 50s, maybe even older with, you know, South Florida wife kind of thing. And they're, you know, maybe late teens, early 20s, looked like a Barbie doll. And he literally just says, you know, pick
whatever she wants.
Yeah, pick which color you want. You know, and then and like just pays cash, you know, for these Porsche GTs. And of course, those are pretty badass cars. Those the GTs. But then day in and day out, there, he would bring like one truck every day would bring in a Rolls Royce, and there would be some 75-year-old woman show up, driven by somebody else, shows up, gets in her car. She just paid $700,000-$800,000 for these fucking cars, and would take off. Yep. And then in like one lady, you know, Bentley, because Bentley's notorious for having like huge engines and super fast. One lady is like in her 70s, pulls up, gets a brand new like $200,000
bi-turbo
yeah.
V12.
Yeah, exactly. Just pulls right up, and as she's pulling out, just fucking launches it, just taking off out of the parking lot. And it was the most insane thing. It opened my eyes first off to what kind of some insane wealth was like down in South Florida.
Oh man.
But then like what cars meant to people.
Sure.
Like you're talking about people in their 70s and 80s that are still buying like these insane performance vehicles. And in my mind, I just never thought, like I just didn't, like cars just weren't a thing to me. It was just, for me, it was more of a utility. It's there to use, whatever. And I started seeing these people that it was like they never grew out of it.
Right.
They just had this love for these vehicles, and they just constantly going after them. Yep. And you know, if you're on a $700,000, you know, Rolls Royce, there's good odds you've got some other toys as well. Yeah. But
that same dealership, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that same dealership is where Trent bought his Ferrari. And at Fort Lauderdale alone, I mean, when you go over the causeway, or it's not the causeway, just the bridge that goes from the bay side to the landline.
Las Olas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The yachts and stuff that are just spread out through there. I remember, I was in a $1 million Ferrari when I passed by them, and I was still like, good Lord, like just Demetrio is the manager there that delivered the car to me, and it's taken care of me a couple of times there now, because I picked up a couple of vehicles there now. Great guy, very hospitable, you know, like, and I know it's because he sold Trent Williams, you know, $1 million Ferrari, you know, that he was even treating me with that respect, you know, but just as a car hauler, you know, he's just like great guy, you know, like very professional, you know, like real courteous. So I enjoy working with those guys. And on that lot, like you said, you know, like they're all stacked on top of each other, you know, it's just amazing car after amazing car, you know. It's
like, yeah, you know, it's kind of cool to drive by like a big Ford dealership and you see, you know, you're looking at it, you see like 200-300 like F-250s and F-150s sitting out there. Like, man, that's a lot of vehicles. Then you go to this damn Porsche Fort Lauderdale and you see like 100 Porsches and every single one of them is over, you know, it's $200,000 plus. Yep. And you're like, God damn, look at the money sitting out there. Yep. It's insane. It's unbelievable to be there and look and just, it's like Skittles.
Oh yeah.
Every color.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that we're even talking about, you know, that high net worth, you know, kind of individual that does that. I hauled a Pagani for a customer.
I was going to ask about this one.
And when I showed up to the hotel in Austin to pick it up, they were doing a Pagani event. So there's like 15 of them in the valet area when I picked it up.
Yeah.
And when I met him, his name's Blake. He's like most hospitable guy too. You know, he's like, hey man, how's it going? You know, I'm doing great. He's like, I put my number, you know, in there for my ranch manager. You know, that's who you'll deliver the car to. Great guy. He'll take care of everything. You know, just give him a shout when you're like hour outside. I said, okay, cool. And when I pull up to the, you know, we're both from Texas, and you know, I know that you were raised on a ranch as well. We've seen these ranches, you know, and you get it, you know, like land is worth a lot, but then you see how people with a lot of money do them, and you're like, okay, this is a really nice ranch, you know, like this is not barbed wire fence, you know, like nice gate, you know, like nice fence. You pull into their property and it's beautiful. Well, I pulled up to his house, and it's like in the hills of Fresno, which is, you know, southeast of San Francisco. And I'm driving past this fence, and he said, you know, I'm talking to the ranch manager. He goes, man, past the main entrance and go to the second entrance. We have like a contractor entrance to this ranch. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, like probably going to go down some, you know, little fence. But as I'm driving past this, it's chain. He's got a high fence. You know, we have high fences all over Texas.
Yeah.
His high fence is all chain link, and it's all that green, you know, silicone coated fence, you know, and it's for miles. And I'm just driving past, and California property is way more expensive than Texas property to begin with, but I'm just driving past it, and I see the entrance, and the entrance is beautiful. So I'm thinking, I'm pulling up this next one, and he's got this even bigger entrance, you know, for, you know, 18 wheelers and stuff to come in. But you pull into the property, and it's just manicured, all of it. And it's probably 1,500 acres, you know, but it's just manicured, the whole thing. But I pull up to this barn, and it says toy barn. So I'm thinking, okay, that's where I'm going to drop the car off. And the ranch manager meets me there in his little side-by-side, and I was like, are we putting it here? He goes, no, it's going to go in the house. Okay. So drop the car, you know, pull into the driveway, and he's got SLS, you know, and I mean, the garage is just impressive to say the least, you know, and it just show, you know, it really put a, you know, a different taste in my mouth, you know, about the amount of money that these guys with cars have, you know. And then when you open the toy garage, you know, the ranch manager's just like, oh, you want to see the toy garage, you know, because you passed it. It's just lined up with shit, and you can tell this guy's got tech money, you know, IT money. Something like he's doing something in Silicon Valley that's paid exceptionally well. Because I mean, it's just as far as you can see. It's probably 50,000 square foot building, you know, metal building, you know, but it's got side by sides over here and dirt bikes over here and a boat over here. You know, it's just a barrage of cool toys, and it's like we're doing something wrong. Is the moral of that story, because the amount of money, you know, if you put all that stuff together, not just that property. I know he has properties all over the place, but that one alone is just mind-boggling to most people. But I mean, you have to assume, you know, you got a $2 million Pagani that's your toy.
Well, it's like having I've always you know, doing what I do with fixing properties, damage, stuff like that. We're always on a beach somewhere dealing with high-end beach properties. And one thing that is consistent amongst all of those property owners that own these houses, and I don't give a shit if it's a $300,000 house or a $7 million house that's on the water, they all say the same thing. If you cannot afford to replace this house out of your pocket, don't buy it.
Sure.
Because they're like, just assume the insurance. They all buy these houses. Of course, they buy insurance and everything, but they all buy them with the assumption that the insurance companies will just never pay.
Right.
And So it's like having that. If you buy a Pagani or you buy, you know, an Aventador or something like that, the expectation is that if you go get an oil change, it's going to cost you $1,500 to $5,000.
Right.
You know, it's not the $89.99
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
You know,
You're not going to take 5.
yeah. You know, so yeah, you go put a set of tires on there, and that's going to cost you $15,000.
Right.
I mean, I watched a video the other day. I forgot what kind of car it was, but the original purchase price of the car was. I think it was right around $800,000 for this car. And they showed what 5 years worth of maintenance and upkeep on this car was like another $230,000. Yeah. So in 5 years, if you know, you've spent $1 million on this car,
right.
Hopefully, you know, and I think the world we live in today, a lot of those are going to appreciate at a very rapid
Certainly.
pace.
Well, a lot of, you know, they go through their plateau.
Yeah.
You know, and then they fall off a little bit. But if in good condition, it should start climbing back up. You know, like, and that's kind of that car market, you know, that really matters, because people don't really understand. You know, like there is a downturn to it. You know, your Aventador even, you know, which rarely lose any money.
Yeah.
You know, but they do hit that plateau. You
Right.
know, and then they do sink a little bit. You know, in that range. You know, there's a 4 to 7 year range where they actually lose some value, but then a quality kept car should come back up. You know, it's an investment.
I wonder, and because I'm not rich enough, that's probably why I don't know the answer to this question. You know, obviously when you think about taxes, you know, you want to do things to reduce your taxes, things like that. And you do that through losses of whatever. I wonder if a lot of these rich guys that are the uber wealthy, if they buy the vehicle with the expectation and they won't buy the vehicle unless it appreciates in value, or if how many of them actually buy it to enjoy the vehicle with the expectation that if they just get what they paid out of it, or even with a little bit of a loss, like they're happy.
Right.
Like, I wonder which side of that would be the wealthier person. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like,
because the way I look at it is a lot of those guys with that kind of paper aren't thinking about that at all.
Yeah.
That's never even a consideration. It's, I like this car. I want this car. I'm going to buy this car. You know, not where does it end up in this range?
Yeah.
You know, so it's a great question. Which of those wealthy, you know, are the ones that are making those decisions?
Yeah, because I mean, you look at, okay, it's like you see some of these, you see videos, and it's like here's a yacht, and this thing's 110 feet long, and it's like millionaire, and then all of a sudden it looks like the miniature fucking Titanic pulling up next to it, and they're like billionaire.
Yeah.
And I guess I get the difference is, even if you get into somebody who's got, say, you know, $5 million versus $50 million, right, or someone who's got $50 million versus $500 million. Like, are they just buying the vehicle because they want to enjoy it, or do they have any expectation of return on it?
I think that the wealth distribution has become so vast and so broad now that you really couldn't narrow it down to who is buying why.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a perfect example. And this is still one of the funniest stories of my entire life. I dated a girl right into college. And her dad's a billionaire. You would never know that he had it under zero circumstances until you actually got to know him, you know, and you met somebody around him. Would you ever know? But if you met him on the street, you just think, this is one of the nicest guys I've literally ever met. Like, very, you know, courteous all the time, you know, like just nice guy. And we went and stayed. They had 2 places. They had multiple places all over the country, but specifically when we were in college, we would always go, you know, on our Christmas break, our, you know, spring break, we would stay in one of their places, or we'd go somewhere. We go stay at her place, and then we go meet her parents at their place, and both of them are in Destin. She has like a nice condo, you know, like right on the beach. They have this massive high rise, and it's some famous name. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, we get in, and we get in the elevator to come down, and we get in the elevator, we come down one floor, ding, in walks Britney Spears and like one of her brothers and somebody else. And they're like, how did y'all get above us? And it's kind of the question. She's like, oh, I'm Stephanie, you know, and my dad is George, you know, and she's like, oh, your dad is George, and I'm not gonna say the last name just because I'm not trying to throw everybody out there. She's like, we wanted to buy y'all's place so bad, but heard that it's not for sale.
Yeah.
And that, that was like heyday for Brittany, like she had all the hits out, and she was big time, in that whole our whole area of the country, like Florida and Louisiana are like connected at the hip. Like all the big money from Louisiana wants to be in South Florida, so they buy, and that it was just kind of funny, she was like, oh man, we wanted to buy that place so bad, but we heard that it wasn't for sale,
There's a difference, like with Brittany worth $100 million
Exactly.
and someone worth $1 billion. They're saying we don't need your money.
It's not for sale. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a years and years ago, our offices used to be in the Greens Point area.
Okay.
And they were all these really shithole buildings. It's Greens Point.
Yep.
And one day, it was all of them were owned by a local company here. And one day, there's a company called the Khoshbin company comes in and he starts buying all the buildings. And next thing you know, he owns like 40 of these buildings in the Greens Point area, and they're all like multi-tenant, industrial flex kind of complex kind of things. Like a 4,000 square foot office warehouse kind of thing.
Sure.
So apparently this was this guy's go-to, and he was doing this all over the country. His name is Manny khoshbin. You know what? Let me see. We could pull this up. Here it is. This guy came from dirt nothing. He was into buying shit real estate. Of course, we got to go through a commercial right off the bat. Here. He had a car, and it was on NBC. He bought a Koenigsegg, and it was like $3.5 million, and it was black with gold all over it. And it's funny because I have been in his house. I've been to his house, been in his office, and what this guy did, the president's desk?
Yeah.
So the president of the United States sits behind a desk. I think it's called the Queen Mary desk or something like that. The desk is made from a sunken battleship, wooden battleship from like the Revolutionary War. He's got the sister desk.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, in his office. But anyway, insane guy right here, man. But yeah, owned. I would say he owned like 3 million square feet of property here in the Houston area. Built his business up, and he was a model in Iran.
Okay.
Like that's what he did was I guess the standards of models are pretty low in Iran. But man, he was a hell of a nice guy, sweet guy. Pulls up and right out, his daily driver was this Rolls Royce right here. He had it just sitting outside Anyway, oh, there you go. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell that. Oh, the Bugatti. Jesus.
Yeah. My supercar section. I love that. This is my supercar section. These are not supercars, but
yeah. Yeah. Oh, every car over here, $600,000-$700,000.
yeah.
But yeah, here.
Let me show you that. That's a Pagani right there.
Insane.
Hermes. That's funny.
So the point with this that I'm making with this stuff here is that look what he's doing. Like he's got a Pagani with, that one's wrapped in Hermes, leather and everything. And just for the hell of it, he buys probably what's a $50,000 bag to have put inside of it.
Sure.
Like, I look at that and I'm curious. is someone like that. Obviously, we don't know the answer to this question, but someone like that, is he buying the car because he wants it as an investment, basically to put out there and show?
Definitely not. You'll never get the investment back out of that car.
Yeah.
All of this super unique and, specific stuff that he's having there, that Hermes stuff, and the cars, you're never really going to get that personalized stuff value back out of it. And some of it you can.
Yeah.
When something is so unique, that somebody will buy it, yes. But a lot of that stuff deteriorates, rather quickly. Not that he's using it, but like those bags and stuff, if they don't sit in there and stay covered like that, they're going to start wilting, like I said, there's that level. It's going to plateau. Yeah. And then it's going to decrease. In 25 years, it's very possible that car is a $25 million car, just in the scope of things, but you have to wait that amount of time. If you tried to sell it next year, they would say, this is personalized to you, you know, and a lot of those, like, this is a terrible, well, I'll use my own car then. I had a 67 El Camino that I completely restored. Well, I put my initials on the seats. I put my initials on the tailgate, like I did all these things that if you try and sell that to somebody, they don't want DZJ quick on their, that's my email. They don't want DZJ on their seats or on their trunk. It doesn't do anything for them, so it actually takes value out of it. Yes, it's custom and it's very nice, but it takes the value out of that stuff. That Hermes stuff, he could right now with the markets, he could probably make money on it. Yeah. But typically, it shouldn't. It should be kind of a negative effect on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I see that, and it make it. Again, I'm. It's like I was talking to my buddy I had on the other day, David Gann. My idea.
Is this the crypto guy?
Yeah.
Man, I saw that and I was like, man, I invest heavily. I enjoy it. It's more of like a competitive thing for me, something I can compete with. It's not. It is about the money because I want to win. But like I love doing the homework, and learning and following the trends and trying to make money. So I really enjoyed that specific part about it. I wanted to see his take on the whole crypto deal. I didn't get that far.
We started talking about it pretty much at the very end.
That was a long show.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
He is his big thing. He's got a bunch of Ethereum. Ethereum and Bitcoin is where he's at. He told me he doesn't have a full Bitcoin, but he said he's got a bunch of Ethereum because he started buying it at the very beginning. So he's doing well there.
He's doing very well.
His big one is a game, something Axes or something like that. So I had heard about this. There's a game where it's a company in the Philippines developed a gaming ecosystem where everything is inside of it, where you come in, and when you purchase to get into the game, you have to, you can buy in, I guess, with something like Ethereum. You have to use kind of a cryptocurrency if you want to buy in, but you start with almost nothing. And by playing, you mine the coins within the ecosystem of the game.
Gotcha.
And so it's just like Bitcoin, but they're causing you to interact. Well, while you're in there, you can use your Bitcoin that you're mining, which in my understanding is essentially you're using your computing power to do the mining. And if you want to use what you've done essentially to buy things in the game, you're essentially just giving all your computing power and everything back to the developers.
Sure.
So my understanding with this company is that there's a tremendous amount of players in the Philippines that get paid by rich Westerners in Europe and the United States to play against them. And they're paying in
time.
In Ethereum. They're actually putting and depositing Ethereum. And this company did like last month. Well, $140 million in revenue last month in December, just in their own ecosystem. And they have their own coin, they have their own metaverse. You can buy real estate, you can buy the players. He said, so what he was telling me, he has the characters or whatever, the coins called axes. And he said, like, if you go on there, I know nothing really about the game. I don't even know what the name of the game is. But he was telling me that, like, there are people like that have original axes, like from the very beginning, that
millions.
Well, he said one person bought them. It was at the time, and it was a dip in Ethereum, and he bought this one axis for like $300,000. Well, now it was $500,000 is what somebody paid. Now Ethereum is 6 times higher than what it was then. So whoever got that Ethereum, if he held on to it, that Ethereum's now worth $6 million, and this other guy over here has just got an Axie that he paid $500,000 for.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure if the Axie appreciated in value as much as the Ethereum. Maybe they have it.
Yeah.
But so anyway, the conversation that we had, that was kind of towards the end of the show. And my big thing is curious about like NFTs. Mm-hmm. Do you do anything like that?
I don't, but the meme, I'm sure you've seen it, the meme of me and Joy, the Daddy's Oil Money thing that they've spun off to everything. I've been like every time a new one comes out, I get 75 text messages, all of them post it, and the newest one, the Shiba coin, that once it goes to $1, I'm going to be a billionaire. I've gotten so many of those. They're like, dude, you need to make this an NFT and sell it.
Yeah. I'm
like, but there's no value in it because you can rip it off of any, like what are you going to own at that point? The same meme that everybody else has?
Well, so I saw an interview with Quentin Tarantino. And it was Quentin Tarantino and part of the cast from Pulp Fiction. And the guy asked Quentin about the famous picture of John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, like pointing their guns. Uh-huh. And famous picture, it's all over the internet. It's been around for years now. And he's like, why don't you make an NFT out of that? And Quentin says, well, why would I and how could I? Because there's, it's all over the place. And he says, well, and the guy says, well, here's what you do. You think about it from this perspective. He says, you take and you generate 100 NFTs of that picture. And he says, yes, you can get a screenshot of it. You can have this. But with the NFT, it comes with the coded information for the authentication of it being real. And he says, so what you do is it's not about just putting it out there so you can sell it and make money on it. It's now what you're doing is you're creating access for somebody. You take that and say once a year, whoever has these has the ability to have dinner with you, have a 2-hour dinner with you. If they own this NFT, whoever owns NFT can have a 2-hour dinner with you.
Gotcha.
And that's what you do. He says you put them out there. It's like that, what's it called? Bored Ape Yacht Club. Have you seen that?
No.
So you need to look. It's called Bored Ape Yacht Club. So BAYC.com. And all it is, it's 10,000 NFTs, and they are all these. It's a monkey. It's the face of a monkey, like a chimpanzee kind of thing. And his lips kind of drooping, and his eyes are kind of sagging, and every single one of these is a little different. One of them looks like Tekashi 6ix9ine with the teeth. Uh-huh. They do all kinds of different ones. Well, like Jimmy Fallon owns one.
Oh, okay.
Justin Bieber just bought one for $1.3 million, and all they are is, you can go on there and you can see, because it's all through the blockchain. So you can actually go through and watch the blockchain and see the bids on these things and who's bidding on them.
Sure. And
it's all in Ethereum. So you got some of them that are on the blocks for like $300,000. Well, here, look, let's see if we can,
sounds like I'm making an NFT.
Yeah, look.
But I don't think anybody wants to have dinner with me. I'm sure a lot of people want to have dinner with Joy, but
let's see if this is it. Yeah, this is it. Okay. So you got the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and it's these guys right here.
Okay.
So you come over here, and you'd have to go to this Open Sea is what they use.
Gotcha.
So it's literally these fucking monkeys. So you got this one right here. It looks like a Russian, right?
Uh-huh.
Click on that. It showed that that's the current bid for 30 Ethereum, $88,780.80. That's the current bid on this fucking thing. And you can come down here and you see everybody who's bidding on them. You can click on them and it takes you to like
95 Beeb.
Who's this guy? Well, I mean, Viva Giallo or some whatever. I don't know. And it shows all the other stuff that they've looked at. So you come over and you can go through these and you can look at
95 Beeb.
95 Beeb.
Uh-huh. Do you see that?
Watch it. If it's
No.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Now, that's the thing is with some of these, I don't know how to do it, but with some of them, you're able to track the wallet. You can look at the wallet and it has to go it goes all the way back. And that's how they're able to find out who some of these people are. And like I would watch the video where I guess like Jake Paul, he has like 5 of these. But yeah, Open Seas is the name of the exchange. But yeah, Bored Ape Yacht Club.
God, they're just crushing it too. If they're selling all of these for
Well, they made 10,000 of them. Look at that. $304,784.49 is what this one is going for right now.
So it's got to be they're buying for the resale. These are collectors and stuff, because who has the want to have a digital file of a monkey, with a a space helmet on it that's not going to try and resell it on the market. You know what I mean?
Right. I think a lot of these guys, look, this one's 110 Ethereum. I saw one in here that was close to, well, you can see these are all 110. These are 112. We're getting more and more expensive as we go down.
Yeah.
119, 120. I know we can just keep going down, but 125. We'll look at 100 and 125. This guy's just a one with an earring and $370,000 is what the bid is on this one. I mean, that's insane. And and it kind of sucks because I've got the TV up, but for whatever reason, it's kind of the camera's kind of blurring it out.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of hard to see it, but man, so anyway. Watching that, looking at that stuff was kind of crazy, and you wonder, are they buying it for the investment for it to go up? But if you go through here, it shows you that when you buy these, you get special privileges of annual meetings. You get access to a private room where only the owners of this, and you end up having access to these stars and these other guys in these private chat rooms once you own them.
Right, for like a buyer's club.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, you got 10,000 of them that are out there, but you got some of these extremely wealthy people that are buying multiple ones. Because like I said, I saw one that Jimmy Fallon, and that. My understanding is, like, who Beeple is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I followed him for a couple years. So this guy, he does digital artwork, and obviously that's kind of what NFTs are kind of focused on, is digital art. So Beeple for the last 14 years has published one picture every day. So let's see. We'll go over here to Instagram. Yeah, his name is Beeple_crap on Instagram. And so he does these digital arts, and it can be of anything. Like this one's all, Joe Biden heads. Again, just weird digital art. He's got some down here. There was one, of course, when Trump was in office, he was doing a shitload of these things with like Trump. He did one with Roseanne Barr. Look, you got there, Mark Zuckerberg, and Santa Claus. Mark Zuckerberg is, Rudolph. What's the
Kim Jong
Un or whatever. But anyway, you go through and he's who's as that Drake and
Kanye.
Yeah. So anyway, he does these pictures, and he puts out one every single day. By midnight, that's his standard. He has to have it up by midnight, and he created all of these as NFTs. Last year he was on the Joe Rogan show.
Broke the $1 billion mark.
He sold $100 million in 1 year of NFTs, and it's all his.
Yeah.
That was on the retail market, not even on the resale side of it. So there's no telling what any of these are worth. Now, there's one apparently, and it'll be very hard to find it. It's pretty far back. It's actually the body. Look, fucking Jeff Bezos is the head of all these goddamn rockets. Look like big old dicks. But it's the body of Elon Musk with the head of the Shiba, the Dogecoin.
Gotcha.
And he made what he turned around and did. So anyway, the point with him was he turned around and started creating. You're buying the NFTs, and for every person who owned the NFT, he started creating a physical representation of it, the physical artwork.
Okay.
And it was coming out, and he was putting them in these cases, and you could, depending on, I guess he had his own little exchange, and you could buy and bid and all this other stuff. And what he was doing was, when you bought the NFT, you got the physical representation of it as well. And so, like, for the Dogecoin one, he gave one to Joe Rogan. And I'm not sure what number he gave him, but he made 100 of every single one of these. And it's just this really cool digital representation of the NFT. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the point. You take your meme, and you could. I mean, if you still owned your car wash, you could, say, look, you guys, if you buy the NFT, you guys you're able to get your car washed, unlimited car wash club kind of thing.
Sure.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, it could be something like that.
I always make jokes. Me and that big black guy that's got his thing hanging out that everybody picks on, like, he and I are going to be in the meme Hall of Fame one day, and we're going to have to have some kind of ceremony where we accept some kind of trophy,
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else that has that many different representations of them.
I actually saw a video. There's a guy's got a YouTube channel, and he does these list videos, and it scrolls over the top of them, and he talks about, it's like like I watched one video, it's like the top 50 most wealthy YouTubers and stuff like that. Well, actually, I watched a video, I think earlier today, that was the most shared memes or meme characters, the meme originators, and the number was like represented, like if it was a million, it actually was a billion. So it was per thousand.
Okay.
I didn't even remember seeing that guy in there, but it was like a fucking anime character that had something like 600 billion like memes. Like that's insane, man. But I don't know. Did you see my elf when I did my elf on the shelf?
No.
With him?
No.
So you'd have to go back to, well, we'll see if we can pull it up on my YouTube page or my.
Man, I'm not online. Like, I'm not in social, and I'm not online enough to get that much information about these things. But clearly, I need to be.
I mean, for me, it's pretty entertaining to go through and mess around with this stuff. So I did naughty elf on the shelf. Yeah. I never do, like, I'm not going to do anything clean. So obviously the first one here is he's snorting coke off Barbie's ass.
That's the Wolf of Wall Street one.
Yeah. So I have this one right here.
Yeah, there he is.
So that's actually what it was like meant to.
Sure.
Yeah, I was trying to get that guy.
You need to get him with his hand around one of those girls, doing mine. That'd be a great.
Dude,
next year.
Yeah, like, well, and that was, I was trying to do one like every other day. And so, trying to get like worse and worse and worse, and I tried to do them here, but it was like, it's so funny because I got this one that's in this wheelchair. And look, the whole concept of what I was doing was fucked up to begin with. It like the whole thing was, Elf on the Shelf is supposed to be
fun.
this.
You got to be creative. I mean,
yeah.
Fuck, if you're not, you're losing.
Well, my mom bought me actually that she ordered me the Elf on the Shelf, like knowing what I had planned on doing with it. Like she bought it for me, and so I went and bought the one Barbie, and she kind of had a Christmas outfit on, but none of her joints bent. So I went back to Target, and I needed to get a Barbie that had the joints that would move. Well, the only Barbie that they had there was this one in the wheelchair. And I was like, well, you know what? Fuck it. I'm supporting it here because like there were six Barbies in the wheelchair that were still there, but all the other Barbies were sold out. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy the wheelchair Barbie. And I was like, fuck, man. I'm like, I'm going to catch so much shit, man, for it. But it was great because I was able to use the wheelchair for so much. Sure. I mean, the girls, yeah. He's back here with his fucking with his dong out, and it was so funny, man, because it was a Tootsie Roll.
Oh, nice.
It was a Tootsie Roll, and I felt like such a fucking weirdo afterwards. Like I took it off and I ate it. I ate this elf dick. So this one was the worst one. This not the worst one, but like this one right here, I felt the most odd about. Barbie's all tied up and everything.
Yeah, it was consensual though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She wanted it. That's for sure. But here's the fucked up part about this one. I sat down and I watched a 30-minute YouTube video
how to tie the knot.
On how to tie. So I'm like, God damn, I'm such a degenerate. I'm literally watching a video about tying knots on a Barbie. So
one of my best friends from childhood moved out to LA or California when we were like 20, maybe 21, somewhere in that range, and went to work for a porn studio.
Oh God.
And that's all they did was bondage and stuff. So he learned all of these fucking knots. I mean, he had it all figured out, and he would come back to town and he would have all these girlfriends, and he was like, "Oh, I'm doing the knots on her," and I was like, dude, I don't want to be here when this shit happens because if cops come, like, we're all in trouble. Like, I don't want to have any part of this. Like, do your thing. I'll be out tonight.
Yeah.
And he did, man. He would tie these girls up and do all this shit, and they loved it. I can't get down with that shit.
Oh, hey, you know what? Look, if
you're experienced, you're trained.
Yeah, I'm like, I tell every girl, I'm like, look what I can do here. You want this shit? Like, what's his name? Not the 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that photo right there. It was unbelievable the amount of women that messaged me from that, and I'm like. It's a fucking elf. Yeah. Like they're like, but can you do that? I'm like, well, man, I learned how to do the fucking knots. I can do them
you
now.
Bring the rope.
Right. like, yeah, exactly. You bring the ropes. Make sure it's all consensual.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a picture of you when you get here, holding the rope.
That's
right. You brought this shit over here and asked me to do this.
Yeah, I'll tell you honestly. I have I have cameras in my house. And they're for security purposes. But I tell any woman who ever comes to my house, one of the very first things I tell them, I said, just so you know, there are cameras here. They said there will be absolutely nothing that occurs in this house that is not caught on camera, that it's in everything is going to be consensual. Not because I've ever been accused of anything, but I know the world that we live in today.
Sure.
Oh man, if you don't have it, it's like it's like what everybody says. Hey, if it's not on Facebook, it's not on the internet. It didn't happen.
Right.
Well, I actually had a situation with my ex-wife just before, actually, the day the day that divorce was filed in Harris County. This is August 28th, 2019.
Okay.
So let's set this story up here a minute. This is number 4, wife number 4, no kids with her. So it was going to be relatively smooth and easy,
Clean.
but she was going to be an asshole. She decided she was going to, instead of just, hey, we signed this paper and we're done. She decided that she wanted to be an asshole. I mean, I've got the recordings of her and everything. I gave her the papers. Like, hey, we own nothing together. We have no kids together. This is my house. You're going to move out. We're good.
Simple.
Now, I'm going to have my attorney. She just wanted to be an ass. She never fucking hired an attorney, didn't even show up at the divorce proceedings. Like, never even showed up to sign the papers. So, anyway, had this situation in the house where my office was upstairs, and I had put cameras in my house a couple years earlier that could watch pretty much every corner of my house. And so my office was upstairs next to the game room, and I had a camera in the far corner that could look down the stairs over the entire game room and into my office. So we're going through this and everything, and I'm on the phone sitting at my desk, and she goes into my bedroom. Now, again, I had filed, the divorce papers were on file now in Harris County. There wasn't shit supposed to be taken out of that fucking house. Well, she goes into my bedroom and starts pulling paintings and stuff off my walls. And she's going and stacking them in front of the stairs. Again, the camera can look, the stairs are right here. The camera's watching everything. And she's just pulling everything down. And so I'm on the phone. I'm actually talking to the landlord of the townhouse that I'm renting at the time. And while I'm on the phone, I've got my AirPods in, put my phone in my back pocket, and I walk over. She's maybe 10 feet from me at this point. I reach and I pick up 3 paintings that were mine that I had prior to her and I ever even meeting. Well, right as I pick them up, again, like I walked this way, she's walking this way, and we're about 10 feet apart. As soon as I pick up the paintings, she turns around and lunges at me and fucking dives at me to try to take these paintings away from me. And I literally just take my hands and I throw them straight up in the air like this. And the camera, like where I'm standing,
showtime.
I'm literally staring directly at the camera. She throws a fucking fit. Throws a guy, all because of my past, going to prison and all that stuff. What she's trying to do now is she's going to try to use this shit.
Mm-hmm.
So she calls the cops. And I'm like, fine, call them. Well, it takes an hour for the Harris County Sheriff's Department to show up. And finally, when they show up, it's like 5 people, like 5 police officer vehicles show up. Like all of a sudden, it's a goddamn SWAT situation. Right. So as soon as they show up, she walks out the front door and goes to immediately just going to talk to him, tell him whatever. I sit down at the dining room table, which is just inside the door. I sit down, I'm waiting for him to come in. I have my iPad with me. And the sergeant knocks on the door, and they were surprised to see me sitting at the table. And he says, "Oh, well, he's already right there. Mr. Husk, could you step outside, talk to us for a minute?" Not a problem, officer. Absolutely. Love cops. So I'm going to be, look, I've had my run-ins with the law, but that was my own doing, not their fault.
Sure.
So absolutely, sir, not a problem. So I'm standing outside, and it's a sergeant and another officer, another sheriff talking to me. And behind me she's still talking to like a female officer and someone else. And the sergeant looks at me, he says, "Mr. Husk, why don't you tell me what's going on?" And I said, before I say anything, I said, "Would you like to see the video?" And he kind of turns his head and he's like, "What?" And I said, "Officer," I said, "I am so sorry." I said, "She didn't tell you I have cameras in my house?" And he says, "No, she didn't tell me." And I said, "Okay, so I will repeat myself. Before I say anything else to you, would you like to see the video?" And he says, well, yeah, I guess. I said, not great. I said, I've got it pulled up here on the iPad. Yep. I said, here, all you got to do is press play. He watches the video. Within 10 seconds, he hands the iPad back to me, turns around, he looks at her, he says, you've got 5 minutes, get whatever the fuck you need, and get out.
This property, or I'm going to take you to jail.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm not fucking joking with you. I'm not joking with you. They made her leave. She was able to get whatever, some stuff, to leave. They told her not to come back. They didn't issue a trespass warning or anything. I leave because 2 days prior, she had ripped the fucking doorbell, the Ring doorbell off the front of the house. And so that's a whole other story. Well, I didn't have a doorbell on there. I didn't have a camera on there. I wanted to get a camera outside. So they make her leave. I run up to Best Buy. I buy a Google Nest camera. I get back. By the time I got back, I walk in the house. She goes to try to pull back in. She thought I was gone. She goes to try to pull back in and go into the garage. The moment she sees me, and of course I pull out my camera, and I've got it right there and all this other shit. Anyway, long story short, had I not had those cameras, had I not had cameras in my house, had I not, taken the steps to protect myself, more than likely in that scenario, because of my past, because of what I've been through, oh, hey, he was in prison, he was already, he's a felon. Take him to prison or take him to jail. I would have already been found guilty. So I have cameras in this house. They're motion detector. I can activate them to record all the time, but they're all motion, and they record like late at night. Cause like I've had my truck broken into in the driveway, which sucks. It's like the 4th time that truck's been broken into. Damn. Yeah. F-350s, man. People love them. So anyway, they're all motion detector, and they record like late at night and stuff like that. But I tell if anytime I brought a female to this house, and they're in very, very conspicuous places. Like you can see them.
Sure.
Like
I'm not trying to hide them.
Absolutely fucking not.
Open.
No. Yeah. And I said, but hey, I've always let them know, if you want me to record, it's
all you gotta do is press play.
Because I've got one in my bedroom, because I've got a door that goes from my bedroom to my backyard. So I'm like, hey, if you want, I can certainly record. I can turn the record on, and we can, maybe we can watch it later or something. So
I've been in a similar situation at the car wash. I had a woman. I'm sitting at the desk one day, and I have a woman come in, and she's screaming at one of my employees, and she's back and forth, and like the way that it is built, like it's a assembly line, and she's like in the middle of the finish line, disrupting everybody. But she's screaming at a guy that is like the most even-keeled, nice guy, smile on his face all the time. She's screaming at him. So I walk out there and say, ma'am, what can I help you with? She goes, I want so-and-so's telephone number. I was like, I don't know who you're talking about. She was using some street name that one of the employees he's like a fill-in. He wasn't even a real employee. She's screaming, I want this guy's telephone number. I was like, well, I don't know his telephone number. And he, for sure, probably doesn't know his telephone number. But regardless of that, you can't scream at my employees. She tells me to go fuck myself, and I'm like, listen, I understand your frustration here. He's not here, and these guys can't give up his information. Like, it's just not what you do. You don't do that, specifically at work, but you can't yell at them, and you're causing a scene, so I need you to leave. She starts screaming at me. I say, listen, and I'm trying to be as diligent as possible because there's customers there too.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm not aggressive, but I wouldn't listen to a lot of shit, but there's some customers there. So I say, ma'am, listen, you're going to have to calm down. Like, you can't act this way. I own this property. You need to leave. And I know, being a business owner and being, in the lifestyle that I've lived in, like, you have to say those things. You have to say the status quo stuff, like, this is my property, you're not welcome here, you're trespassing, please leave. And I say it all. Like, I'm to the T.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you need to leave. I'm not asking you anymore. Like, this is me telling you to get off of my property right now. Not when you're ready, but right now. This is still my property, and this is my domain. You're leaving.
Yep.
She pokes me in the face and starts yelling, like doing her best to, be aggressive. And she literally poking me, and she poked me right in the forehead. And I was like, don't fucking touch me again. I was like, this is not how you think it's going to go down at all. I was like, don't fucking touch me again. And she gets all in my face, like this close. What are you going to do? And she's a big woman.
Yeah.
and she headbutts me. like, and I had gotten fed up enough, you know. I called her a fat ass. I was like, "Get your fat ass out of my face." That's where it all happened, you know. Like, and I get it. Like, I should not have said that, you know. But I'd been berated for a good amount of time, and in front of all my employees and customers, I was like, "I mean, get your fat ass out of my face." Bam! She headbutts me. So I just grab her by the arm. I push her off the property, push her out, and she's like trying to fight me and falls down. And I'm like, great. Here I am pushing a woman, you know, but I was like, I'm not going to be, you know, headbutted for sure, you know.
Yeah.
So when she falls down, I just back up completely and I call 911 right away. She's like, oh, and she went straight into, I'm suing. I mean, just right away. Like, I'm suing. Like, you pushed me down. I was like, I call the cops. She calls the cops. She calls, I think she knew the number to the constable's office.
Okay.
Because I just called 911, you know. But there's constables there in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we get in, I'll go in order. Constables show up, and I go back inside the office, and I'm doing work. She tries to come back in the office. I tell her, no, don't come back in here. Well, she rips the door off of the hinges. Like, it's sprung, so I lock them. I lock all the doors, and I was like, look,
Jesus.
I'm done here. Cops show up. I have to come unlock the door for them, let them come in. And this cop is like, put your hands behind your back. This is for my safety. And I was like, well, it's weird, but I'm going to go with this, you know. But there's cameras all over the place. Like, everything is caught on camera, sir. He's like, if you don't mind, just please put your hands behind your back, you know. And I was like, okay. So I put my hands behind my back. And there's still people there. And they're like, sir. He says, man, don't talk to me. Puts me in the back of the car. Like 10 more, like you said, SWAT shows up. There's 15 cop cars everywhere. I mean, they're all over the place. And then HPD shows up, the people that I had called. But they talk to her for a minute, come back and talk to me for a minute. And they don't really talk to me. They just ask me, you know, name, number, you know, like specifics, you know. They're out there and she's giving the whole story, you know, and they're giving her like the full, you've been, you know, pushed, you know, you've been assaulted, you know, story. The customer is like, that's not how it went down at all, you know. Finally the guy comes back and he's like, man, I want to apologize. First of all, he's like, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I just needed to be in control of the situation. I apologize for putting you in the back of this car, you know. I was embarrassed more than anything, you know. Like, you're at your place of business, you know, and you've got employees and you've got customers. I was embarrassed, but he apologized. And then like a sergeant or maybe even a lieutenant shows up, because this guy comes and talks to me and he's like, listen, he's like, we've done everything. We've looked at the cameras. Like, if you want her to go to jail, we'll take her to jail right now, you know. And I enough time had passed where I was kind of feeling, you know, sympathetic. I was like, well, I don't really want anybody to go to jail. Like, I know that's a miserable experience.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think it's that important, you know, to send somebody to jail. So I was like, I don't want to, you know, like I refuse, you know, or I don't want to press charges, etc. He goes, well, we're going to give her a citation, a warning, and a case number. It says, do not come back to this property, you know, like, you've been warned, you've been told, you know. HPD shows up and they're telling me, they're like, dude, put her in jail. Put her in jail, put her in jail, put her in jail.
Yeah.
But they weren't the first people to show up. So constables kind of have jurisdiction at some point, or control of the situation.
Yeah.
So I say, no, I'm okay. You know, like, let's just get rid of her, you know, so we can get back to normal here at the car wash. I say, it's fine. They write another case report. You know, I've got 2 cases, you know, one from HPD, one from the constables. So look, if she comes back at any point, you call us. We'll come and take her to jail. And this is from HPD. I say, no problem. They leave. She goes out to her car, leaves. They all leave. 15 minutes later, she's walking around the parking lot. She's yelling. She's screaming at employees from, like, the sidewalk. I can't do anything at the sidewalk. You know,
Yeah.
It's a nuisance at best, you know. But then she walks into my flower bed and starts, like, it's a rock flower bed. She starts kicking rocks out of there and acting a fool. So I took a video of her with my phone. I said, look, you're trespassing now. Like, I'm asking you to leave. You need to leave right this second. She doesn't leave. I call the cops. She calls constables again. I call HPD. 911. I don't have anybody's telephone number. You know, she calls constables. Constables come back. And they're like, what are we going to do? I was like, again, they approach me. I'm out there literally helping dry a vehicle, and it's different constables, which I had no idea there's that many people working in this area. They say, sir, please empty your pockets and put your hands behind your back. I'm like, man, I have a case number in the register. I had put it in there. Like, I wanted to be safe about this. I put it in the cash drawer. I said, listen, I have a case number in there. You just need to go get it. Sir, put your hands behind your back. I'm like, I'm blown away at this point.
Oh my God.
I am flabbergasted at this point. I'm like, dude, if you just call HPD or this case number, if you'll go in there, I'll stand right here. Put me in handcuffs. I'm not getting in the back of that car again, though. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, this is my business. I get kind of upset about it. I said, listen, and I'm almost tearing up because I'm angry. You know, I'm like, listen, you need to go inside, open the cash register, and pull the case numbers out of here. 2 hours ago, this woman was here. They came and said if she stepped back on this property, they're going to take her to jail for trespassing. I'm not getting in the back of your car again. Well, hang out right here for me for just a second. It's okay. He goes in there and gets it, comes back. And I was like, cool, can we take these handcuffs off? Now I'm getting upset. You know, I'm like, hey, man, take these handcuffs off of me. Like, I am embarrassed. Like, this has gone too far. Ma'am, you need to leave. I said, hey, wait a minute. This is not the scenario. She doesn't need to leave. Y'all need to take her to jail. And like, I'm adamant about it. And I was like, this is not how it's going. I was like, can I have my phone? And my phone's like on the hood of this guy's car, this constable's car. I was like, I need my telephone. So I get the case report. I called 911. I was like, I need HPD. And then, you know, they ask you ambulance, fire, whatever. I was like, I need HPD, like, specifically. Like, I have a case number here. This person's trespassing in. They're back. And there's constables here trying to put me in handcuffs. I was like, I need to speak to somebody. Man, it wasn't like 3 minutes later, this fucking HPD comes in like fucking Buck Rogers on his white horse, swoops in the parking lot. Man, put your hands behind your back right now. Like, puts her in the back of the car, goes over there and talks to the constables and stuff, and he's like, settles all of it. I mean, it was, and he ended up being a sergeant, you know, like he had all kinds of rank, you know, whatever. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was like, dude, I don't know how this happened to you. And he's like, this is uncalled for, you know. And like, then for like 20 minutes after that, I end up exchanging business cards with everybody there, even the constables, you know, they were giving me a hard time, and they're like, man, we are sorry. Like, she's going to jail. Like, and because we went through like I mean, this is 4.5 hour ordeal, you know, like the first time, you know, I have to show them step by step, video after video after video. And it's her doing the poke in the face and headbutting me. And I was like, and I even showed him, I was like, man, look, I grabbed her by her arm and I was pushing her, like, no doubt. He's like, well, there's a point here where you say my property, you don't want them there. This is your domain, and you don't have to ask somebody to leave. Like, you can tell them to leave. Like, this is your property, you know, like you don't have to live by somebody else's once, you know, at that point. And I was like, man, but I felt just terrible, you know, like, one, I was ashamed, you know, like nobody wants to put their hands on a woman specifically, you know, like, and I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I was in a situation that I was unprepared for, you know, a woman putting their hands on me, you know, that I had to defend myself, you know. So when you were talking about the cops coming to your door, like, it struck a nerve with me, because you were more prepared than I was, you know, to have your video up and be like, hey, just look, you know. I wasn't, and I felt, I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, you know, to be put in handcuffs, you know, and at your business, you know, you know, and then in front of customers. But the best part about it was, I don't want to say her name, but I would love to say thank you so much to this one specific customer that was there that day. She came back and she was just like, Dustin, that is uncalled for. Like, that is, I couldn't believe that was happening. That's why I stayed around. That's why I wanted to be there. She's like, but I could not believe I wasn't there for the second time that happened to you again. But I will say, Lisa, thank you so much, because she was a huge help in that, because she saw the whole thing, you know. So
yeah, you know, it look, man, it sucks. You know, the hard part is that we live in a society today, and you think a lot very similar to how I think about the bullshit that we deal with today. But we unfortunately live in a society today where there's a certain group of people that can claim, I made mistakes a long time ago, I'm sorry for them now, that's not who I am today. But you're not extended the same fucking courtesy.
Right.
I made mistakes 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I mean, over a decade ago. I was a fucking kid by most standards.
Yeah.
I made mistakes, but apparently my mistakes aren't allowed. It didn't hurt anybody, didn't do anything, but apparently my mistakes have to stay with me the rest of my life. But everybody else over here is allowed to fucking say, well, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, you know what? Hey, I did my fucking time. I've done my time. I did what the state asked me to do. I was a good fucking boy. I earned my way home, and I'm finishing up parole. But apparently those standards don't apply to a lot of other people. Right. Particularly on the left. And it sucks because we have to sit here. It's a complete double standard. Not only through masks and vaccines and every other goddamn thing out there, but just being a general person.
Yeah.
Like I'm a huge, obviously doing what I do here. I'm a huge, and with your show, Unfiltered and Informed. Huge supporter of the First Amendment. The First Amendment my rights of the First Amendment do not stop where yours begin. They overlap. But if we're two different people, you don't have the right. These other people don't have the right to infringe on my ability to say what I want, even if it's offensive.
Right.
The word fuck. I love it. It's a great word. It's a fantastic word. It can mean anything. By most stretch of the imagination, it's an offensive word, but it's federally protected. Except if it's someone like me.
Oh, sure.
Using it against somebody on the left or somebody from a particular group of individuals. It's such horseshit what we live in today. We can go on that fucking soapbox. We can go down that soapbox here, but man, we're about 2.5 hours in at this point, man. Yeah,
it flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was
so
a good conversation.
So man, we'll wrap it up here, man. Man, is there anything you want to, like your trucking company, Unfiltered Informed? What do you?
No, man, no, I haven't been able to shoot because I've been so busy. Like I had to shelf the show for quite a while now.
Yeah.
I may kick it back up soon. Just got to get this new business, really on autopilot running itself before I dedicate the time, because as you know, these shows take a lot of time, a lot of preparation. So it'll be back, but no ads coming out of it. I'm all good with that whenever I'm ready. But if you do need car, truck, SUV, boat, anything shipped anywhere across the nation, like, you can reach out to me specifically. All of my social media's got my contacts and stuff on it. No, man, thanks for having me, though.
Yeah, man, absolutely, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you drove about 45 minutes to get here, man. So really appreciate you coming out, man.
Great.
Yeah. All right, bud.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.